We have Carlos Dada with us, who's the director of El Faro, the best investigative news publication, online news publication in El Salvador. And wanted to ask you, you recently broke some very, very important news in El Salvador, and there were some ramifications to that. There were some threats to the reporters and to yourself, I believe. So I was hoping you could talk about the story that you all worked on and what happened.
Well, basically, our story said that the government had struck a deal with the gangs, so they would stop the killings, or at least diminish the number of killings, in exchange for better conditions, better prison conditions, and some benefits. This is basically the story that we ran. What happened after that is that the government denied the existence of such an agreement, and then a military bishop, said that he was the one that had negotiated a truce between the two big gangs, Barrio 18 and Mara Salvatrucha, and that the government had nothing to do with it. But in the last days, the minister has admitted that the truce, the so-called truce between the gangs, was actually his own strategy and design. And he has also admitted that he will not say that it was a negotiation, but he would admit that the government was, he calls it, facilitator for this truce to be achieved. So by facilitator, what he means is that some of the leaders were moved from high security prisons to lower security prisons where they could be in touch with the structure. The government says they needed to do this in order to be sure that the leaders of the gang would deliver the orders to the whole structure, because in the high security prisons they were isolated. So what we are asking or questioning is the fact that when they are moved back and in contact with the structure, then they have control again. I mean, it's like a double-edged knife, right? Because in a way, yes, that's the only way to deliver the orders, but in another way, it's strengthening the structure of the gangs again. So they are being consolidated. This is basically what's been going on.
And I guess, and maybe you could talk a little bit for people who aren't really familiar with what's going on in El Salvador these days, with the level of violence and how powerful the gangs are in El Salvador right now.
Of course. There's an uncertain number of gang members, but all accounts go from 20,000 to 100,000 gang members only in El Salvador, which is a very small country. El Salvador is actually the second most violent country in the world, just after Honduras. Honduras is the first one, and the problems are very much alike, which is a combination of social violence, impunity, and violence exerted by the gangs. According to the government, the gangs are responsible for most of the killings. And what needs to be said, which is a fact, is that after the so-called truce, the number of killings has dramatically descended, which means that at least the gangs had a lot to do with most of the homicides in El Salvador. So yes, gangs are very powerful organizations that started as the kids on the block asking you for some money to get drugs, but now they're really criminal organizations. They deal with homicides, with car thefts, with drug dealing, with weapons smuggling, with human smuggling, and with homicides. So it's a structured criminal organization, and with extortions, right? With extortions that are very much alike what the mafia, the Italian mafia, did here in the old days, like offering you protection, but if you don't pay, then you know that you're going to need the protection, right? So yes, this is basically the structure of the gangs and the power of the gangs.
And the gangs, you're talking about Las Mara Salvatruchas and M18?
Barrio 18.
Barrio 18.
Sí.
And these gangs got their origins from prison gangs in the United States, right? I mean, they started in the origins of these gangs.
Not in the prisons, but on the streets of Los Angeles, right? Barrio 18 comes from 18th Street, right? And Mara Salvatrucha is a branch that went out of Barrio 18. But they had to do with territorial control by streets. These gangs still exist in Los Angeles. These gangs have physical presence in many, many cities across the United States. Most strongly in Los Angeles and in Washington, D.C. But not only in the United States. These gangs are really strong in Honduras, in Guatemala, in Mexico. I mean, besides El Salvador, of course, in Belize. And now they're going down. Now you have some presence of these same gangs also in Belize and in Nicaragua. And according to some UN reports on drugs, they are also going to Europe. They are part of this new international drug dealing structure. And they have cut some deals with the big cartels.
And so when this truce, when you all, made this announcement, broke this news that there was this truce, something like this has never been tried before in El Salvador, and I guess it's an interesting way of trying to bring down the violence. It seems like it's being successful. I don't know. I mean, it seems like it could be a good thing. Do you think, or not? I mean, what are the pros and cons of this?
I don't want to judge this,
truce?
But what we are questioning is that, is this sustainable in the long term? And the answers we are receiving from the same government officers are, this truce could be broken tomorrow. It's a very volatile deal, let's call it like that. The thing is that if you're chasing the monster, but then you say, hey, relax, we're cutting a deal, so behave yourself, and you can eat and become stronger and higher, and then tomorrow, when the truce is over, the gangs are just going to be stronger.
And the problem was that there was no transparency. Nobody knew about this truce until El Faro broke the story. And then what were the ramifications for your news organization after you broke the story? What happened? Well,
we became under attack directly from the Ministry of Security and then by the gangs themselves, who publicly stated that I shouldn't exist and that we were a really bad organization for the country, and that they knew how to deal with life and death. The thing is that the statement was published only because some level of authorities allowed them to write it, to print it, and to deliver it outside the prisons. So this is what happened. Now the level of those threats and tensions have diminished a lot. But that was the situation.
And it was a threat that was published?
Yes.
Yes. And did you receive threats by phone and other types of threats as well, or?
No, that was some time before that. We had been harassed, chased. We had people on the tables next to our tables who would take out cell phones and take pictures of us, and they were not paparazzis. So yeah, we have been harassed. We have denounced that these harassments came from intelligence agents.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You don't want to talk about children?
Oh yeah, I do. Thank you for reminding me. Here in Texas, we've had a big influx lately of children, unaccompanied migrant children coming across the border from Central America, and you have, in your frequent visits to Austin, you have spoken about the level of gang violence and how it's gotten worse with the infiltration of drug gangs from Mexico. Why do you suppose that we're getting this huge influx of children coming across now?
I have no idea, or better put it, there must be not one reason but several reasons for this, unless there's something really mysterious that we don't know. But some of the reasons that may help to explain this is, yes, the fact that in some communities that are controlled by gangs, children are being recruited by force by the gangs. So you have to become a gang member or you may suffer some really bad consequences, which has produced a lot of internal migration in terms that some families from those communities are forced to move out so they could keep living a decent life. If you are a student in those communities but you have to study in another neighborhood that is controlled by another gang, then you're basically suspicious of belonging to another gang and you can get killed the next day just because you live here but you study there. This is the kind of problems that some people face daily. Recently, in the middle of this so-called truce between the gangs said publicly that they will stop forceful recruitment in the neighborhoods and in schools because they have also penetrated the scholar system. This declaration, of course, is hopeful. But the first thing that it proves is that they admit that they have been doing this as a system to get new members. So this might be pushing some children to get out of the country and to look for new horizons. Of course, whatever the reason is, in the end the reason is the lack of hope. Why are people sending their children in such a dangerous way? I mean, the path to the United States is a very dangerous path. Why are people sending their own children through this path? Because they don't see any hope in their countries. This is clear for us, right? And also, I think there could be a percentage of children that are being sent to reunite with their families. Some of their parents are living here, some under the temporary protection status, and they have not seen their children in many years. So I don't know the exact reason, but I can think of many reasons for this to be happening.
Thank you so much, Carlos.
Thank you very much, please.